Hello traders, this is Blake Morrow and you are listening to the week ahead video for June 11th, 2017. And before I get into the charts and all that stuff, make sure that you try out ForexAnalytix. It is $1, $1 US dollar for 10 days. And once you try the program, make sure that you go download our mobile app. You can get it in the App Store or in the Google Play Store, and this way you can get all of our alerts and updates and support and resistance level breaches, and you can get it all on your mobile phone. So make sure that you do that ASAP, especially before the trading week. Now, we're going to talk about a few things here, and well, first of all, we have a lot that happened this week, and we're going to talk about what had happened on Friday with the S&P, because that's probably the elephant in the room. I think everybody wants to know what happened with the S&P, but what more importantly, maybe what happened with the NASDAQ, and we're starting to see some of the rotation out of these FANG stocks. But before I go into that, I want to talk about this upcoming week. This upcoming week, we have the FOMC on Wednesday. Now, the market is expecting the Fed to raise rates. So now, at some point, you would think that as the Fed continues to raise rates, that's going to have a negative impact on equities. And obviously we haven't seen that as of yet. But, you know, a lot of traders and a lot of institutions and a lot of banks have been really wondering, hey, you know, when is this rate hike cycle of the Fed really going to start to have a negative impact on U.S. equities? We haven't seen it yet, but you know, it's going to be interesting to see what the reaction is this Wednesday. But that's not the only central bank that's making decisions this week. We also have the UK, so the MPC. The Monetary Policy Committee will also make decision on their interest rates, the Swiss National Bank, and also the BOJ, which in all accounts we're not really looking for anything new from any of those central banks, but still that's all happening on Thursday. So let's talk about the S&P first and foremost. So if you go look at the S&P chart, so let's take a look at just what had happened during the S&P. We have this huge, some people call it an outside day candle, but because really the price action on Friday hit a new all-time high, but also hit a weekly low. Now, fortunately for the bulls, that we reversed off the lows and we left like a spinning top candle. But the fact of the matter is we stopped right at here. Let me go over to the weekly chart. We stopped right at trendline resistance, and more importantly, there was a confluence, 161% extensions of this move down here, and then this move down here. We have a confluence of 161% extension. The daily RSI is rolling over, so that is concerning. I mean, if you're a bull and you saw that price action on Friday, you're probably now on high alert. And I think that, you know, considering seasonality, that we're going into the summer months in the stock market, you might see some actual sellers come in, you know, especially profit taking after what we've seen here. I want to show you really quick though. I want to show you over. Let me go over to the NASDAQ 100. We're going to just take a real quick look at what had happened on the daily. This is the NASDAQ, and the NASDAQ saw a really big reversal. Now we hit, you could say this is like channel lows, maybe, you know, something that looked like that. But we saw a really big sell-off in the tech stocks, especially the FANG stocks, you know, the Facebooks, Amazons, Googles, Netflixes of the world. But the high beta names really came under pressure. So usually you see, you know, a shift, a rotation, if you will, out of NASDAQ stocks into energy stocks, and but the fact that the S&P came under some pressure, but you can see the Dow still holding up. What would concern me if I was a big trader of the S&P and I was looking, or U.S. equities, and I was looking for some sort of reversal, I'd be looking for all the indexes moving together. And you can see the Dow still moving higher. You could see the Russell 2000. Even the Russell 2000 has been underperforming. We might have put in a false breakout here. This is the IWM is the Russell 2000. So keep an eye on, keep an eye on U.S. equities. I think, like I said, because we're in the summer months or going into the summer months and seasonally not a very strong time for U.S. equities, that could roll over. Now, the question that as currency traders, what we're looking at though is what is it? What does the dollar do? Does the dollar respond with strength if the U.S. equity markets sell off a little bit? If we get let's just say a 5% pullback from where we're currently at in the U.S. equity markets, I don't know if that's enough to provoke dollar strength as a safe haven currency. I'm not too sure about that just yet. We haven't seen any evidence, and that's a problem when you have a market like the stock market that's been going straight up for so long. The correlations aren't really there, so we might have to see, you know, a week or two of downside pressure in the stock market to see what asset classes move in response, because you could get the dollar gets a flight to safety bid. But see, we haven't seen the bond market respond at all. I mean, here's the 10-year, and we actually went down on Friday. And so, if the 10-year Treasury is back below the 200-day, which it is, and we had a little false breakout here, I mean, that doesn't suggest that the stock market really is going to sell off a whole lot. But that's something that, that as currency traders, we need to start paying attention to. We need to start paying attention to the equity markets in the US, especially, to see if we're going to get any type of response in the dollar index, because the dollar index, as I showed you, it has been bid the last couple of days. More importantly is where the dollar index actually held. It held the 618. Now, remember, the Fed is meeting on Wednesday. So if the Fed raises rates, does the dollar have a positive response? The dollar has already been very weak. And I think a lot of people have been expecting a turn here. And we saw this, you could see this little AB equals CD move on Wednesday. We alerted you in ForexAnalytix that we had this AB equals CD, which allowed for a bounce. A lot of that had to do with the cable pullback on Thursday, Friday. But I'm more interested to see what the dollar is going to do after Wednesday. Now, speaking of the cable, let's turn our attention a little bit to the pound. Okay, the pound had a pretty negative response, obviously, following the UK elections. But looking at Friday and looking at like the euro pound, for example, this is a big one to me because I was actually long the euro pound going into the UK elections. I sold it, fortunately, at 88.23, I think it was. So I got a pretty good price. But notice how high we went. Actually, that was in Europe. After I went to bed the next morning in Europe on Friday, we actually spiked up almost to the 618 retracement on the euro pound. So that means the pound came in under pressure again. So let's go over to the cable really quick. You can see the pound came under pressure, but we bounced here, and as you can see in our basic technical analysis, we're now starting to look for a bounce higher in the cable. So you got to be careful, in my opinion, if you're short the cable right now. I look at the euro pound, and the fact of the matter that we stopped at the 618 retracement, that or close to. I mean, sometimes close. They don't say close is close only works in with grenades and horseshoes. But but I'll tell you, that's an old saying. But I will tell you, in the stock or in technical analysis, if you come within striking distance of 618, a golden fib like that, maybe that was enough. And the fact of the matter, we got a little false breakout here. So the pound could bounce. I mean, we might see a little bit of a pound recovery as the market thinks that the UK might have a more soft Brexit following the UK elections, which may actually favor the pound a little bit. But it's going to be interesting to watch the response there going into this next week. One last thing I want to talk about is we did a blog, and myself in collaboration with a lot of the team, we did a blog on gold. And Gold, we were more concerned with, well, what if gold broke out? And you see this is a big multi-year trend line. And I was more concerned about a breakout. But based on the response that we saw on Friday, gold gave us a key reversal candle and a possible false breakout. So this is one of those correlations here that could spell, a trouble for gold, but more importantly, it could be bullish for the US dollar. And that's what I'm looking at right at this moment in time. Now, also, again, I'm going to backtrack a little bit to the S&P. If the S&P starts to sell off, and like I said, a sell off to me is, let's say a 3, 5, 7% pullback from here, going into the summer months over the course of the next couple of months, before you get the Santa Claus effect in the stock market, where people start to buy equities going into the end of the year. But let's say we get a little bit of a pullback. Again, what is the response in the currency market? But more in talking about gold, what's the response in gold too? Does gold start to find a bid as a safe haven play? I don't know. Based on what we're seeing this week, it looks pretty bearish. I mean, the false breakout here. I'll give you a bigger view of gold here. The bigger picture view. Whoops, I was already on the daily chart. Let's go over to the weekly chart. Is that we had this multi-year trend line, and we're already showing a reversal or a false breakout. That was pretty big. That was a big reversal this week. But that doesn't mean it's over. I mean, I still look at above 1300 and gold turns really bullish. If the stock market comes under pressure, let's say this week, does gold maintain this false breakout? I don't know. Gold might actually break out to the upside. It doesn't look like it's going to right now, but next week things can change. Things can change within a day. So that's one of the most fascinating things about the markets in general, is things can change so fast. Anyway, folks, thank you for listening in this week to the week ahead video. I really appreciate you all. Make sure you take your trial of ForexAnalytix. When you get a chance, you should do it right now as you finish listening to this webinar, if you haven't already. Thank you for listening in this week. I'll see you next week. My name is Blake Morrow, and you're listening to the week ahead video for June 11th, 2017. Thank you once again.